Missouri.
I'm Allan.
We are
Bourbon Buds.
Welcome back to another Terminology Tuesday where we break down the words behind the whiskey so you know exactly what's in your glass.
What is proof? Yeah, I know it sounds basic, but here's the thing: most people think they know proof, but they don't.
Yeah, it's one of those sneaky topics that, it shows up in every bottle. It affects the flavor, the burn, the experience, the aromas. It sets you up for barrel proof, cask strength, distillation, all that good stuff later. But you got to know what proof is before you can understand all the rest. So proof is basically twice the alcohol by volume. So if you see on your bottle or on your label, it says 50% ABV. That's alcohol by volume. So you double that, and that's your proof. So it's 100 proof. So if you have 55.5 ABV, that's 111 proof. So you just double the ABV. Why that exists, a higher proof, sometimes it means more flavor, more heat. It doesn't always mean that it's better. Especially, when I started my bourbon journey, I started with a lower proof. I could start feeling the flavors, the aromas of the whiskeys a little easier at a lower proof because the ethanol wasn't burning so much. But now that I'm into my whiskey journey, um, I like a little bit higher proof because I can differentiate between the burn of the alcohol, the burn of the ethanol, and the flavors that the whiskey's pulling out of that wood.
Yeah, and we all started at a lower proof alcohol, bourbon, whiskey. Um, it's just you have to take it slow and at your own pace. I wouldn't recommend you going out for your first few whiskeys and getting a higher proof hazmat above 140 proof. That's just going to set you up for failure and ruin your experience with whiskey, bourbon, just in general.
Yeah, and if you watched our last episode, you understood that a bourbon has to be bottled at a minimum of 80 proof. So there are some lower proof bourbons out there. The right around the average, I think, is the bottled and bond type of proof, and we'll go over that in a future episode. But bottled and bond all has to be 100 proof. So I think anything between that 80 and 100 proof is a perfect starting point for someone that's just starting their bourbon journey.
And we have a bottle here. Um, it's a decent bottle for you to try. This is going to be coming in at exactly 80 proof or 40% ABV. So that's going to be something to think of.
Yeah, and this is an example of a bottled and bond. It's a 100 proof. This is a Holiday Soft Red Wheat out of Kansas City, Missouri.
And this is going to be a whopping 142 proof or 71% ABV. So with this, this is going to be a hazmat bottle.
Yeah, so anything over 140 proof is technically listed or labeled as a hazardous material. That's why you'll hear that term, and we'll go over this in a future episode. But you'll hear the term hazmat. So this bottle is a hazmat bottle, just because it meets that criteria that it's over 140 proof. And so it does require placarding when transporting it. You're not really supposed to take that on public transportation. You're not supposed to take it in airplanes, buses, trains, etc., without the proper documentation to transport it. But yeah, and it's a government regulation. They have to list on their bottle. All distilleries have to list on their bottle what the alcohol by volume is or the proof is. So it's one of the requirements that has to be listed. So, like Allan said, you knew your bourbon journey. Start with something lower proof, just so you can get your palate used to the ethanol in the whiskey or in the bourbon, and then you can start pulling out those flavors a little bit easier, those aromas. and then graduate your proof as your palate allows you, and then experience the little bit higher proof. See if it's hotter for you. See if it's got more flavor. See if it's got more viscosity to it. Things like that. So uh, try something low, graduate to something higher. For now,
And
I'm Jerry.
I'm Allan.
Keep on sipping.
Please drink responsibly. Back to it again.
I think I'll leave that on there.